I'm Daniel Obi Klein. I'm a producer and songwriter and vocal producer.
I'm Charli Taft. I'm a songwriter.
I can't help but wonder, was Lips played at your wedding?
Jimbo, the super freak, just giving a shout out to him.
We love Jimbo. He DJ'd at our wedding.
He played one of Charli's actual demos that went on to become Kim Lip's song. He played that original at the wedding, and then Charli
he like passes me the mic.
Yeah, and then Charli had to sing to it, like, you know, in a full wedding dress, and like people around, you know, while we had the reception in Spain.
It was super fun.
It was a cool moment, man.
Moving into the songs that you've written for LOONA. When you wrote for LOONA, I'm curious, were any of them songwriting camps, or were they all songs you've written and then were later pitched to?
Good question.
Actually, they were kind of like camps that we'd unofficially hosted ourselves. So we'd have, like, say, Andreas Oberg, we'd have him come to Copenhagen and we'd do like a mini camp week where it wasn't like officially for a label per se.
Okay.
We just kind of focus on different genres that we wanted to write to that week. So one of the songs was done through that process. Yeah. Crazy Love is a song I wrote that you weren't a part of, actually. So I did the track with Thomas Sardoff and Daniel Kim. The other two times that we wrote together was Puzzle and it was Eclipse. And I believe Eclipse was written on an SM camp. And then we were later able to pitch the song to different labels. Actually, Jimbo, our friend again, he had a great relationship with Blockberry at the time. So we'd written some demo songs that were that for my project, my artist project, that we'd co-written with Jimbo. And he had those songs, and he'd played them to a friend of his who maybe works for Blockberry. He'd heard those songs and was like, oh my God, are these songs available? And Jimbo said, no, unfortunately, these are for Charli's project. We can't pitch these songs. I'm really sorry, but this is just what I've worked on recently. So then he came back to us and said, these guys really like what you guys do. What do you have for them? So then we had that great connection. Then we could kind of open it up and play songs that weren't perfect for my project, that were just great songs that we had, you know, that we thought would work well for what they were doing. So that's kind of how it happened.
So I love to start talking about your LOONA tracks, of course, in chronological order, Eclipse being the very first one that they sang, or Destiny. This question actually comes from another musician who is on my channel. His name is Kevin. He says, Eclipse is such a wonderful blend of surprising key changes and an overall dreamlike quality. I find that when I listen to it, the analysis part of my brain just turns off, only to be surprised by the next section when it happens. Did you have an idea of the atmosphere before fine-tuning the rest of the song, or did it just all come together effortlessly?
It started as a track first. There's a difference between when, like I was saying earlier, when you start on a track that's going to be a song the same night. There's usually a slight difference in how the music turns out. But in this case, it was made to feel like a full experience just as a track. Because when you submit a track to top liners, you have to make sure that the track is as happening as possible. You can't leave anything out to the imagination, stuff you might have filled in later on. You can't surrender like a half-finished track to some top liners. Those productions are usually quite full and already are quite an immersive experience just to listen to. And normally that's not how I would make a song. I would make sort of a sketch of the track, get the song written, then I would stop production on it, get back to the top lining with the writers in the room, Charli or whoever's with me, and then write the thing and then concentrate on the song, you know, for the most part, make sure the song gets everything it needs, every little chord change it needs, maybe shift the BPM a little bit, and then get the song written and then prioritize that the song comes out sounding great. And once you have the vocal, it's so easy to hear what to then add in terms of layers. But in this case, I have to make sure the track is already super happening.
We wrote the track together. You produced the track.
We were already doing that kind of style.
Yeah, I composed the chords to the song, to Eclipse. We felt it had kind of like a Chaka Khan-ish, like 80s, like late 80s vibe that we really liked.
And what I was going to say was we were already in a kind of a spirit of that sort of vibe at that time where we were doing tracks that did that.
We really liked the track, and then it just so happened that when we had the schedule for the camp, we'd actually been scheduled to write to that track together. Yeah. So when we made it, we didn't know we'd be top lining to it. We thought, no, have it, but it ended up falling back to us, which was great.
Which sometimes happens.
Which was, you know, it was meant to be kind of. So we were so happy when you know, Blockberry LOONA cut the song for Kim Lip, and it was going to be her kind of like breakthrough song or whatever, like feature song. It was so cool for us, and the video was great too. It was like simpler, but like really artsy and really beautiful, and like again, that dreamy quality. It had that dreamy quality to it, so it just came together, didn't it? We were just really happy that again it became such an important song for LOONA. Yeah. Because if it would have been with a different group, it wouldn't have had that same moment. Right. So we were glad that it was able to find the right home.
Yeah.
No, I have a question. When you two work on a track together, do you tend to start, Charli starts off with the synths and the chords, or Obi, do you start with the beat and then Charli adds on to that?
Both processes.
Yeah.
Sometimes Charli starts with chords and I just fit some things around that. Depends on what the kind of thing it is. If it's very chord driven, if it's like a mid-tempo ballady thing, right? Then you know what I mean. Then it's going to be you. If it's a track with like sort of like a pulse and like a percussive feel or whatever, like an up tempo, then usually I'd start it and then she layers chords to take it elsewhere and give it some mood and some stuff. But usually those kinds of tracks also have like a riff-driven section, which I would normally do because that's sort of my thing.
Normally we'll build. You'll start. Say if you start with drums, and if I add some keys, we like build up one section so it sounds pretty full before we move on to writing the next section. Because then we can really see how it flows together. We wouldn't like make the chords for the entire song. No. Normally we'll deal with it section by section and just make sure that it flows so well together. And we get that overview.
I think looking at Destiny, which is a good example, I think the verse is just, you know, track and bass line, and there's like a little, like a one note stab sample that kind of goes through the whole thing, which is more than enough to write the verse to. And then once we get to the pre-chorus, then obviously Charli does her magic. She's way better at that stuff than I am. She just like takes it, makes it lush, gives it that Quincy Jones feel.
Yeah, I love Quincy Jones and Elizabeth Baker and Babyface and all those guys. So like just trying to layer, give it that like that mood, that, you know, sort of kind of very sensual, sophisticated feeling. Yeah. So that's what we wanted to get for parts of that song anyway.
When you hear the groove and the track and the bass line, that's often me. When you hear the lush chords and the romantic sort of R&B feel, that's usually Charli. So that's probably how to roughly divide what we do.
Yeah, okay.
It's very rare that I have done those chords. I've been known to do that, but you know,
the sappy bits.
The sappy bits, yeah. But only if you're not around. If you're around, I'm just gonna be like, hey, what do you hear here? Because I got this thing.
Your turn.
Yes, and then we switch place. We literally switch place like this, like that.
For Eclipse, there's the bass line that appears for the first time in the hook. I think at the end of the pre-chorus, there's this like little phew, and then the instrument comes in the chorus, and it sounds almost improvisatory. Is that you on the keys playing that synth?
With the bass lines, I love bass lines.
He's amazing.
I'm a little addicted to bass lines. I've been cutting down on bass slides. I was doing that. Like I always do bass lines. I'm good at that. It's probably, if I played any instrument, it'll probably be bass, but I'm just not very good at string instruments. So it's always like a synth bass, and I always know my way around synth bass. And
you're very good at that.
Know what to do. It's just intuitive. I think I'm probably from that era. You know, I was in my teens in the 80s, and I was just, I think, just over bombarded, oversaturated with like, you know,
like jammy bass
synthesizer bass grooves, you know what I mean? Just throughout that whole decade.
Like also New Jack Swing.
New Jack Swing was also like very bass driven and hoppy, jumpy bass that was quite shuffled. So I mean, I'm quite, you know, I have a good feeling of you know, getting a synth bass to groove. Yeah. And then it's, like I said, as soon as it needs to, you know, to get that romantic pad feel, instead of me trying and like getting it kind of right, I just go, nah, it's her, that's her.
Do you remember how Eclipse's vocal line and hook was birthed? Which one of you started out singing the main line, and how all that vocal interaction came to be after?
That was you taking it down, and then we continued what I did, because I think you had done something in the bridge in the pre, and I think that whole.
Do you know what we do? What we do sometimes before we have lyrics, what we've often done in the past, we'll sketch the whole melody, we'll record the melody with dummy words, with false words.
Yeah.
Like
that. We call them da-da-das.
So we'll be like da-da-da-da-da-da. Da, 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 da. We'll sing it like that, where it doesn't have words yet, and then so we, you know, sometimes it's on the demo of that, it's your voice singing da da da, or it's my voice singing da, depending on who came up with it. And then when we have the full sketch, then we'll be like, okay, what do we want to say right now? We can focus more on the lyrics. We're not trying to do like everything at once. That way we get the strongest melody, and then we can add the strongest words.
Also, the strongest rhythm of the melody. Is it doing the right thing? So we don't really deal with it from a lyrical standpoint until we feel that all the sections are melodically doing an interesting thing.
Say, for instance, when I'm writing for my artist projects, you know, sometimes we'll take a different approach when we write, and we'll write lyrics and melody at the same time, because we want it to feel personal, or we want it to feel, it has a different, we want the lyrics to maybe like drive the song. But for a lot of the pitch songs that we write, the melody is key, because we know that there's going to be translation
anyway.
So we don't really try and make the lyrics drive the whole top line.
That's entirely
when you write in English, you obviously want the lyrics to play a different role. You want the listener to feel the emotion of the lyrics. So you're going to maybe, because there's so many different ways to write, but if you write lyrically, if you were to write a poem in your bedroom and then you would kind of translate that into a song, your melody would be slave to the words that you'd written on paper. And that has a different experience when you listen to it. Whereas if you write melody first and you don't deal with lyrics, you're gonna have more of a formulaic in a way, or kind of tight experience of the melody being rhythmic and being pleasing, like punctuation to the song. You know, you're going to have that experience, and that's important when you have to factor in translation. You have to make that melody really strong regardless of the words that are being sung. So that's kind of our two different ways of working in terms of how we approach top line.
You come up with melody da 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 does, then you add lyrics, and then you add the background vocals, or the background vocals
in that order. When the lead is done, and the lead is obviously, you know, the verse vocals and the chief vocal in the chorus. That's the lead, and the leads all throughout the song. When they're done, and we've already obviously at that point decided on words, and we have a title, we have everything, then I do a whole pass from beginning to end where I go, this needs company, this needs support, this needs to be by itself, this needs to happen that way. And so on. And then of course also sometimes the track needs to break down and no added vocals specifically. Or sometimes the track needs to come down and you know, kind of give you a lull in the track for a second, you know, in the experience. And then sometimes we have an ambient single vocal with like drowned in reverb, doing something in the back, maybe filtered, you know. So I designed the sort of soundscape when the song is done. So the song is chief. Again, the lead melody is chief, and then the words are secondary. The added, you know, vocal embellishments are also secondary, actually third in this case, and they come afterwards, but in that order, because that way the most important things are prioritized.
What doing demos for K-pop really taught me as well as a singer was how to get the most out of your own voice in terms of the different tones in your voice and the different aspects, the different qualities you have. Because if you imagine an experience of a K-pop song, they want a lead vocal in the verse that feels emotive and feels strong and makes you obviously pay attention and listen to the words or listen to the song itself. And they want a powerful vocal in the chorus as well, often a high belting kind of powerful lead vocal. But then there are parts in the song where they want a very airy, soft tone. They want more feminine tone. They want fluttery runs. They want textures in background vocals, not just a hard texture, but often soft and warm. So you end up using your voice like an instrument where you're playing different characters within the song. You're trying to be those 5 girls, or you know, however many members there are in the group. You're
like a violin quartet.
Yeah,
like
you're
cello, and you're like a violin, and then you're a viola.
Yeah, you're using your voice in different ways, and I think a lot it helped me in my artistry, because now when we have so many options for how we cut the vocal, what effect do we want to get? Do we want a soft effect? Do we want to, how many of the background vocals should be sung hard versus how many should be airy and soft?
That's why you feel so much depth with Eclipse, is because you're able to have the darker harmony, the softer wispy background vocals, and it creates this very comforting, wistful, but also warm track experience. So we like it too. We feel it has like a very sentimental quality, that song. It's something, something very, very uplifting and warm about it. Yeah. I could be completely wrong, but so Puzzle was you guys and Andreas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How did it start out? Was it started out with Andreas on guitar because of the da 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 da, like that 2 guitar lick, right?
No.
It feels like the song is almost built around it.
Yeah.
Or maybe the other way around.
Sample, right?
Yeah, it is. He didn't actually play that. That's a sample.
Okay.
It's something I played. It's a riff-driven song. So once again, like we explained earlier, I would start the process. Even though sometimes when Andreas is there, if the song, for instance, Lo Siento, he started that process because that started with the guitar. So obviously I assisted that. So I get behind him and just assist. But in this case, for Puzzle, which was called GTG, Good to Go. It's called Good to Go before that. That was the title for it. That started with this thing, like this little guitar, and then like a filtered set of drums, and then it kicks off, and then it's basically like one note bass driven, and then of course it gets lush in the pre. And I believe the pre was either you or Andreas.
Yeah, and Andreas also plays keys. So what people don't know is that when he writes songs, he doesn't always play guitar in every song. Like sometimes he'll be composing, but on keys instead of guitar. Yeah. So me and him normally kind of like interchanged. I for the most part let him kind of direct the harmony, because he has such a harmonic sense, and he's just so versatile. Yeah. So sometimes
hasn't been anything we can't do with that guy.
Sometimes it's nice to let him, because I kind of know, I work with Obi so much, we know what we're going to come up with if we work together. We know what direction. So it's nice to have the other person set the tone. It breaks us out of kind of our little cycle. Yeah.
So it doesn't get samey in it.
So often I let him kind of like dictate the harmony to start with, and then I relieve him in like the pre-chorus or in the middle 8, and we go back and forth. So he plays keys too. So I think on that song he played more keys than he played guitar actually.
Yeah, he did. There was no guitar in it from his end actually.
No, it was all samples samples. We took like
samples
like a hip hop kind of New Jack Swing approach, where it's like taking samples, not necessarily live instruments.
Yeah.
For Puzzle, is this another instance where you finished the track and then you did the vocals? Because I felt like there was the call and answer in the hook, the da 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 da. You know, it's kind of like back and forth, and I feel like the synth patches that come in really support that call and answer and change and register.
Yeah, we did the track. Actually, we did the track while Andreas was here in Copenhagen, and we did like a sketch of the top line, so he could be involved in the melody writing. And then he left. I think I went back to Sweden or LA or wherever he was living at the time. And then you and I kind of cut the vocal after he'd left, based on the melodies that we'd written all three together in the room. So it was actually written the same day. We wanted it to feel like a call and response though, so we also changed the way we recorded the vocal. So again, it had kind of a strong lead vocal to kick off the chorus, and then the response would be a bit softer, more like a choir type, collective kind of response. So we actually recorded, I think, the sketch the same day.
Yeah, the sketch.
And that had all the blueprint of the final.
Yeah,
final
we did that
vocal.
for each song on that particular camp, and then the following week we just took each song one by one and just
finished
mapped out all the lyrics and
finished the lyrics.
And then once it got pitched to LOONA once again, at this point were you guys aware of what Blockberry was doing with this group, what kind of concepts and like all the LOONAverse and all that? Did you know?
We were told afterwards. Yeah, the thing with a girl for each month or whatever it was, and something like that, like a 12-girl group, and then
it was Jimbo that kind of told us a little bit about the concept, but we weren't too in the know at that point. We just established the connection with him through Jimbo with Blockberry, so we had a pipeline to send them the songs they were looking for, and that was all we knew at that time. And then as the songs started to be released, we could follow on YouTube pretty much the same as everyone else. The process of of how they were revealing to the fans.
And then for Sweet Crazy Love, Charli, at this point, did Girlfriend, the first song that Odd Eye Circle put out, was that out already and then you wrote Sweet Crazy Love, or did you write Sweet Crazy Love before?
I wrote it before. I'd written Sweet Crazy Love before it came out. I'm gonna say probably half a year before it came out, I imagine. Maybe somewhere between half a year and a full year before it came out, it was finished. I didn't know who it was for. I just wrote to some tracks. It was pitched through, I believe, Universal Music published in Korea. So it was their connection that kind of brought the two things together. It didn't even know about Odd Eye Circle at that point because they were just establishing these new concepts as they were going along. So I was just as surprised as anyone. I was like, okay, this makes sense now. This is who it's for, and then the video was so cool and it all came together. So yeah, I was surprised. And that song actually, I think that year Billboard chose that song as one of their favorite K-pop songs of the year.
I remember that you had that.
It was I don't know what it was in the top 20 or something, which was super cool because again it came together after.
Congrats to my wife. I had actually nothing to do with that song.
No, it came about in a way. I kind of was following the process, a bit like what we've just described, the same as everyone else. So that was a nice surprise.
Right. How drastically did they change the lyrics and the concept from the demo?
Oh, like so drastically. Like it was called. Do you want to know what the original title was called? It was called Pillow Fight.
Oh, that's so sweet. I like that a lot.
Like it was about a sleepover and a pillow fight and having fun with your girlfriends, and it was very like cutesy teenage like first love. Like it was completely different from the the finished song. That's what we wrote about.
Awesome. Well, this interview is coming to end, but I have a few questions that I would like to wrap up the interview with. So, what is your favorite track or tracks in which your demo vocals were kept in?
Ooh.
Mine?
Yeah. Yeah, both of you.
I like Rewind by Zumi because they kept the whispery bit that I did and I thought it sounded pretty cool. I think there's some about both of our voices in automatic. Yes, that was a nice harmony package, by the way.
The enter, I think, maybe?
They didn't give me.
You and Andreas?
Oh wait, yes, we did some sort of doo-wop responses. They might have kept those, because they sound actually the same as they do in the demo. And then they kept, famously kept Charli's voice for the intro. That's Charli doing that.
Oh hell yeah!
That little
they kept that
riff.
like a sample because we had that come twice in the song, so they ended up keeping that. They asked for that.
Yeah.
I love Hush that we wrote for SES. I think that's one of my favorite songs that we've had released in Korea.
Yeah.
So that one I really like.
And that was also with BVs done by both of us. We don't always do BVs together because it's not always that the song requires it. I think in Christmas Without You, they didn't actually keep our vocals, but we also done those together.
Yes, that's right.
Not the leads. That's obviously just you, but like the BVs.
There's the backgrounds and yeah. I mean, they've done it.
It hurts, just won't do.
They kept some in the back, and it's a beautiful song. We like that song. feels like we didn't write
very much is.
Yeah,
we like it so much, it feels like we didn't write it.
That's interesting to say that. It might not make any sense, but when you've written a song and it's like, it's that good, it stops being something you wrote. And it's just, it feels like it's its own song on a shelf that you might have heard in a 7-Eleven or someone else played it for you. It exists now outside of you.
It kind of proves to me that, like, you know, inspiration isn't something that it doesn't come from us. Kind of, we just like channel something that's out there. That it feels like it. We can't take credit for it necessarily because we were just lucky that day that it found.
It's like a song needs to exist, and then it finds you as a conduit. And if you're paying enough attention, you give it exactly what it needs, then the song gets out into the world through you. And you have not as much to do with it as you think.
Yeah.
You just helped it exist. It's not actually.
You didn't do anything. You didn't.
It's crazy to say that because obviously, you know, it's one of those. Where it gets a little funny.
You can't be too. You can't be like. You've got to be very humble about inspiration and where it comes from, because you know it's a fragile thing and it's not.
Yeah.
You know, you can't take full credit for things like that, I don't think. Yeah. So the background vocals, to get back to that question, the favorite song probably for me is Hush. For you,
Automatic, because
Automatic. Okay.
Yeah, because they did keep some of our stuff with the it's automatic. Like we did some kind of like a thick 4-part wall that was kind of nicely blended, and they kept that. And
thick, so packages, harmony packages.
Well, I would love to summarize this interview with a question that I love to ask all the producers that I interview, and which we've already touched on quite a bit in this interview so far, I feel like. But what is your sound? Like, what writing techniques do you guys go to, you feel like, almost in every single song you write, so that if a fan is listening to this song, they're like, oh, this was written by Charli Obi?
Okay, I think this song...
You try that. I'm not sure we have like a signature. I'm not sure we do. Maybe we do.
I think there's definitely sophisticated, hopefully I would say, sophisticated or complex harmony in terms of the chord changes. Pretty jazz chord sensibility that you hear throughout. There's definitely a slick R&B vibe that goes through all the songs we make, whether it's like hip-hop influenced or whether it's influenced by some other genre. We usually get that kind of like R&B present, like dark, moody, sophisticated R&B thread. And I think also the harmony packages, the layered vocals,
that gives away who it is.
That really kind of sums up what we do.
We also make, I think we write distinctly, like, so that the verse and the pre and the chorus feel like gear shifts. We're very much fans of, you know, feeling like the melody steps up in intensity and then steps up.
Super step up.
We wrote step up. That's true.
That's true. That was a good one. That was a good. And sometimes, in some cases, the melody actually goes back down. It can do that, but that's very rare that we do that, where it goes back and becomes like kind of subtle again and, you know, a bit more sparse. But mostly our songs do that sort of step 1, step 2, step 3, and then, you know,
and if I may say one more thing, I feel like our songs, hopefully to the audience, sound like songs that weren't just written to a brief or written to tick a box. Like, they hopefully sound like crafted songs. Like we don't pride ourselves in being like a track maker and a top liner. No. We see ourselves as like songwriters from in the old-fashioned sense, where songmakers. We want to craft an experience from the beginning. So we like to work from scratch. We like it all to feel like it's evolving. You know, it sounds complete. It doesn't sound like it was different, you know, sporadic ideas kind of placed on top of each other. We want it to feel cohesive. So I think hopefully listeners get an experience from our music that it's very wholesome in itself, and we want to craft a good song. Last
but not least, what is up for you guys in the future? Do you have any messages for your fans? And Charli, do you want to talk about your debut album coming up, right?
Well, this I
think we both do.
This has been our baby. It's been our baby for like a few years now. Yeah, I mean, I could not be any more excited about this album. This summer, the first single is going to drop. I think at the moment we have around 4 or 5 singles slated, so it's going to be a nice build up, hopefully with great momentum, to the album, which is going to be out early next year. So I'm going to be really in album mode.
I dare say it's some of our best work.
It's some of our best work. It's some of the songs I feel like are the strongest songs we've ever written, strongest songs I've definitely ever performed on. And it's a culmination of like all of my influences. It draws on inspiration all the way kind of from the early 90s R&B sound all the way through to kind of the mid 2000s. So it's all my favorite eras that we've kind of mishmashed and we've put together in our own unique way, but yet it still feels,
it's very personal.
Still feels modern. It's extremely personal. I think it's a really good experience as an album, you know, in its entirety. So aside from the singles being strong, I feel like if you play it from start to end, you really get a sense of what I'm about as an artist.
At the moment, that album, Charli's album, Deluxe Life, is my favorite album. It's the album I want to play the most, and I kind of want to go back and pick out certain songs. Sometimes I want to start it from the start, and just, you know, like back in the day when you would buy a new album and it was just like your favorite new album, you couldn't stop playing it. This is what this is doing to me. So, yeah. And I wasn't sure we could get that, because, you know, when you're doing it yourself and you have to please yourself, you're like your own harsh critic. It's really hard. I've actually been able to be like, wow, this is my favorite album at the moment. So I'm over the moon about it.
Yeah, me too. It's a dream come true for me to even make this album and to have opportunity to work with such amazing writers and a producer like Obi and other.
I'm a fan of you.
Different
actually.
other. Oh,
yeah, I'm a fan of you. Like, I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of your artist.
Isn't he the cutest? He's too sweet.
Oh,
I mean that. I'm serious. I think your album is really good.
And otherwise, we're doing a lot more pitch songs this year. We're doing a lot more sessions for K-pop.
We're doing a camp next week, actually. Very big camp, as it turns out.
Yeah.
We'll start by telling you.
So we're just busy on all fronts, really. We're just kind of trying to really make the most of the time this year and you know, get back into gear after COVID.
Yeah, a lot coming up for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to appear.
Of course, thank you for having us.
It was such a joy.
It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. We really look forward to talking to you again in the future.